Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at AmericanExpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
I was hoping that it would be this because I'd heard nothing but good things, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed how scrungy it was at places. I enjoyed how accomplished it seemed, as you know, these relatively new directors managed to balance everything that they were looking to balance, both from a subtext level and on the actual narrative, and they used what were really good horror movie tropes and twisted them just enough to make them extremely relevant for a 2022 audience at the time.
Hey everyone, welcome to Flixwatcher. Joining us today we have Sean.
Hello.
Andy.
Hello.
And Kobe.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about Talk to Me.
Thank you as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes, and thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for editing this podcast. Please do remember, guys, if you're listening, head over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating and a massively glowing review. And if you want to join the fun with us on social media, we are on Twitter, yes, Twitter, at FlixWatcherPod, or on Instagram, at FlixWatcher.
Hello film fans, our guests today are Sean and Andy. Over to you, please, Andy, to say hello to the listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Hello, so I'm Andy. I work on Frame to Frame with Sean. It's the podcast where we take 2 seemingly unconnected films and slam them together with the most obscure theme we can find. So thank you very much for having us back on Flixwatcher.
No problem. You're always welcome, guys. You're always welcome. We've had a few people returning more than once, haven't we, Helen? But, you know, come back on again in a few months if
always
you want.
Welcome.
Well, we'll get that crown as the most returning guests. I've got that in my sights now.
The challenge is on.
And with that comes a great reward of maybe a slow clap, which I won't do now because you've not got the award yet.
Oh, I've got the nearly clap. Ooh.
Sean, is there anything else you want to add to that? Who are you?
So, yeah, I am Andy's cohort on Frame to Frame. I always say long-suffering. He's the long-suffering one.
You're the guy that just shows up and talks, and I'm the guy that does the work.
Yeah. In the words of The Departed, yeah, I'm the guy who does the job. You must be the other guy. Like, I'm the other guy. So, yeah, film journalist and author, and yeah, happy to be back with you guys to talk movies.
So this movie we're talking about this episode is Talk to Me. First of all, Sean, this is your choice. Can you tell us why you chose it? And then I'll get the timer up and you've got 60 seconds to give us the synopsis.
I just think it exemplifies what a real purple patch we're in at the moment for independent horror, particularly from A24, who have been on a roll for absolute years now. And in an echo of what we regularly do on Frame to Frame is I was lucky enough to interview the directors, Danny and Michael Philippou, and they were brilliant and they offered some insights. So, yeah, I feel a little bit of a connection to this movie because of that. So,
hopefully you can sprinkle those insights.
Connection, like you feel like you've touched the hand.
Actually, I need to be careful how I use that word, don't I? So it's all going to come back to me in the context of this film. Yeah, it's true, actually.
I just find it weird hearing Sean say he's interviewed someone without having a sound effect where I can just go clang where he's dropped the name.
Is that a clank right now? I mean,
you can bring it in.
I guess I'm excited for their career, not to steer my kind of scoring here. So you can be one of those guys that said, yeah, you know, I spoke to them before they were famous. Although I think they're quite famous anyway in Australia with their YouTube, aren't they? Although I have no idea what they look like.
RackaRacka, yeah. They very much came out of that comedic gore stable into the feature film debut. Quite a progression, I think.
Well, tell us. So you basically you chose this film because you met the directors. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. If we get to the gist of it,
yeah.
All right. Well, there we go.
He just wanted to brag about it on another podcast.
Time for the synopsis, I guess. Do you want to tell us what happens in this film in 60 seconds or less, starting now?
So we are introduced to 17-year-old Adelaide teenager Mia, who is approaching the 2-year anniversary of her mother's death, and she has a distant relationship with her father. And Mia is aware of what might be best described as some kind of hazing ritual involving local teenagers, in which there is an embalmed, disembodied hand that people clutch onto and utter the words, "Talk to me, I let you in," which appears to induce some kind of psychotropic trance or some sort of weird mystical change in people's bodies, and physical change as well. And when Mia senses that she can use the connection from this hand to maybe reach out to her mother in the afterlife, she has no idea the amount of horror that will be brought down on her and her friends. And when I say horror, I mean horror. Properly.
Nice. Just under the wire. Have we all seen this before it came to Netflix?
Yes.
I have.
Yes, I saw it in the cinema. I think it was, I was going to say unlimited screening, but what I really mean by that is sort of screening that came out before it was released.
Yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed the directors. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Next, Helen, have you seen it before it came to Netflix?
So, I've seen it before this podcast, but I didn't see it at the cinema because my cinema doesn't think people like horror, and I didn't make it to the Odeon.
For shame.
How many? Is there only 2 cinemas near you? You live in London. You live in that there London.
Yeah, but like, it's...
Tube and people and...
The cinema closest to me is like a 3-minute train ride, so I'm always going to go to that one, or it's like an hour.
So what we're saying is the real horror is cinematic distribution.
Yes.
Rather than the film.
I saw this in the cinema, and as everyone knows, as Helen knows, I don't like horror typically, but I do love good films, and this is a good film, and it's a horror film. And this is what I want more of. No nonsense in terms of horror. Invisible Man.
It's worth the death bang
more
and
of that.
everything.
Yeah, exactly. More of the Invisible Man, more of this. Guys, this is, I mean, I love this.
Convert Kobe into the horror fan that he knows deep inside he could be.
I've always been a convert to good films. That's the thing. A lot of horror isn't good. This is great. I loved it. I went to Sundance London last year, and where this is one of the films where I also saw Past Lives and Passages and No Hard Feelings. No, I Hurt Your Feelings. And so I saw a lot of great films. And this is a film I didn't see then because I just couldn't work out the time. But everyone's like saying, dude, you need to see this. So as soon as it came out, I went to the cinema. I made a beeline to the cinema to drive for half an hour, Helen, to go to the cinema to watch it.
Oh, no.
And I was like...
How did you cope?
This is great. This is actually like, I'm glad I made the effort to do so. And it's scary. It takes a mainline kind of, a standard kind of horror trope and puts it on its side and gives you twists you weren't expecting, gives you horrible scenes I didn't like watching in the cinema or again. I turned away a couple of times in the cinema. I'm not sure if I turned away at the same times again and watching it at home. And the only slight downside to this is that I think there might be a sequel, which I'm like, I don't want that. I think this is a really well, nicely contained film. And I thought the ending was like fantastic. I was like, I stood up and applauded in the cinema with the ending. Well, I didn't, but in my mind, I was like, I should stand up and applaud the ending. I was like, yes, of course, you can be the fucking one that lets them in.
Was it a slow clap or was it?
It was
a messy clap.
In my mind, it was an enthusiastic, messy,
okay.
Messy the dog applause. But I love this. I think it's great. I'm looking forward to see what the Philippous do next. I'm looking forward to seeing what the character who played Mia does next. And hopefully some of the other actors come out of it as well and do some more stuff, because it's, you know, I think across the board it is great. It looks great, great story. And also, I'm going to hand over to someone else in a second, but I love the intro sequence as a one-shot. That had you right at the start, and the ending as well. And if a film's got a great ending and a great start, then, you know, it's done half the job, and it really did.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said there. I'd also add that it's really funny in places as well. Like, there's some really, really funny bits. Like the scene with the dog, which I learned today, he didn't really kiss a dog. A bit sad about that. But there's a bit where he kisses the dog, and it's really, really funny. And it just really kind of gets that stupid stoner, being a teenager, not much to do apart from hang out with your friends and let dead people enter you. And also Miranda Otto goes really hard in this, and she is so great in it, and she's so funny, and she's got some great lines, like particularly.
Who's Miranda Otto?
She's the mom.
So she was great when they were having that party, and she questions everyone in the house when's the party starting, and that discourse was like,
I will punch you in the face. She's great. She's such a force of this. So and it's like super grisly horror that is really crunchy and grisly and gnarly. So yeah, and who doesn't like love a freaky hand in something? It's like, oh, it's a freaky hand, it's gonna be good.
What, like a scary movie?
It's quite Monkey's Paw-esque, the W.W. Jacobs. I love the way that the Philippous obviously honour that heritage, that supernatural heritage, but they effectively turn it into an allegory for PTSD and drug taking and peer pressure, and they keep all those plates juggling in a really spirited, really ghoulish way. And yeah, when it goes nasty, but when it wants to break that atmosphere of slow burn, boy, does it do it. I saw it in the cinema with a friend of, I'm sure someone we all know, friend of Frame to Frame, Amon Warman.
Is Notorious Scaredy Cat.
He is, and boy did he demonstrate it, because I was sat right next to him, and there's the one bit where the character of Riley, brilliantly played by Joe Bird, let's say does some things to his face when he's under possession.
Oh, God.
And I went, oh my God.
I'd phrase it slightly differently.
Yeah.
Does some things to his face sound extremely strange, especially when we've referenced a dog being kissed.
Actually, yeah. It's he smashes his face into a table and then attempts to pull his eyeball out. And Amon literally did a almost like 90-degree turn away from the screen and went, oh my God, like that. And actually properly physically like flinched away from the screen, which was absolutely hilarious. I was like, yeah, mate.
He turned into Reagan from The Exorcist.
He always did. I was like, yeah, mate, this is actually pretty intense. And I'm a horror fan. You know, I found it really intense watching the cinema. I really enjoyed it.
What are your thoughts on the cinema, Andy? Oh, now.
So I remember it was a secret screening, so I'd gone in there. I was hoping that that's what this would be, but
so is this a Cineworld thing where you don't know? They just say it's a new film coming out and you don't know what it is. Yeah.
Yes. And it's abundantly clear that some people just go along hoping it's going to be the next blockbuster that you're going to see 3 weeks' time anyway. But no, they expect it to be an unlimited screening, despite the fact that they're clearly not going to give it to the things that are going to get box office anyway. They're going to give it to these kinds of releases that could do with that extra leg up. So as soon as the BBFC title card came up, the amount of walkouts was palpable, and the screen was like half empty at that point. I stuck with it. I was hoping that that's what this would be, mostly because Sean told me that it may be this, it might be this, it could be this, I'm not sure.
Insider knowledge.
Leaning back to the fact that Sean works for Cineworld, or makes podcasts for them. Yeah.
I should say that he doesn't actually know what the films are. He just has an inkling of
it's
what 4 or 5 movies it could be.
It's not really insider knowledge, it's insider intuition, which doesn't really help anyone, and it always ends up being wrong. So,
well, not in this case. So it did empty out quite quickly. But
just to say that is typical of these screenings, though. People go in there hoping it's going to be something, and if it's not something they're interested in, then why stay there for the next 2 hours, right? So that's
why go if you're not sitting there willing to let something come over you, irrespective of what genres.
If you're the kind of person like us four here who are like, I'll watch any film, and the essence of the surprise is what's going to take us there to the cinema, then fine. But then there will be a great portion of people who are going there thinking, I hope it's 1, 2, or 3 films. If it's not this, then I'm really not bothered and I can just go and get some sleep. So why?
But if you're already there and you sat down in your favourite seat and it started and...
What you've done is nicked a seat from someone else.
Well, those screens are never full. But I'm just empathizing with people. I can understand why they're going to be there for 2 more hours when they can do other things. You know, you only live once.
Can I just say you could build an entire podcast around this, around people walking out of screenings and like the entitlement that people get. So I've come in, I'm just going to get up and walk out and go home again because it really bothers me as well.
Well, screenings, people walking out of screenings that they know what they paid for, that's a weird thing to me. But screenings where they're taking a gamble, it's not what they wanted it to be, then go on and live your life.
There's a whole podcast.
Maybe they bought a ticket to a film they actually want to see and they've just stayed at the cinema and just gone to a different film.
It's a podcast there for being outside of the cinema and like catching people as they come out and go, so why did you walk out?
What did you make of the film? I don't know, I didn't watch it.
Anyway, so yeah, Andy, you stayed.
So yes, I did. I was hoping that it would be this because I'd heard nothing but good things. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed how scrungy it was at places. I enjoyed how accomplished it seemed as, these relatively new directors managed to balance everything that they were looking to balance, both from a subtext level and on the actual narrative. And they used what were really good horror movie tropes and twisted them just enough to make them extremely relevant for a 2022 audience at the time.
I really like the kind of subtle but not subtle but well done special effects, like just simply like the eyes going black and white, and the pupils widening, and I thought that was just a great thing. I don't think I've seen that before. And the way that when the spirits are let in and their heads throw back, and just doing that kind of head shaking and the blood vessels,
way that the camera tilts as well. Yeah, at that point, all
those kind of things were just added to these simple kind of things done well. Like, that's why I just kind of think simple things done well, guys, is better than Quantumanian madness nonsense. Complicated things done badly.
It's quite common in possession films. It's quite a common thing, but yeah, it can be overused, whereas this they use the right amount.
Yeah.
I think what helps is it's got real alacrity with its characters. Like you understand.
Got what? Sorry,
it's got real perception with its characters. I'm sorry, I'm just got words.
Walking thesaurus over it.
Yeah. You understand where Sophie Wilde, who's brilliant as Mia, you understand where she's coming from. She is grieving, and in her grief, she is led into making some bad choices that happen to have a supernatural angle that basically doom some of her people within her social circle, but then largely herself. And it's very dark. And the idea that she's effectively hoisted by her own petard by what she seeks out, she is punished for it. And you wonder who's she communicating with all the way through the film. Ostensibly, it's the ghost of her mother, but is it? And I found that really creepy, like the idea that you can never know who you're talking to on the other side. Is it something trying to manipulate you? It's a classic like ghost story possession trope, but I think it's done particularly well here.
And I think underpinning that as well is her relationship with her dad and her relationship with her deceased mother. That I can wholeheartedly understand the deterioration of the relationship with her and her dad, and her not wanting to be in the house and wanting to hang out with a surrogate family and people who kind of taken her in. And the scene at the start, which was telling, where she had no time to speak to her dad, but when the phone rang, she couldn't pick it up quickly enough to then get out of the house to pick up Riley, to then sing Chandelier and the car on the way back before getting back to her family, to Riley's family, and hanging out there for the rest of the day, and that all kind of is woven into the story, which I think just adds layers to what's going on here. And she feels, the misstep is going against Riley's sister, her best friend, saying, yeah, let Riley have a go, just 60 seconds. That's the mistake of the film, right?
Yeah, particularly when it's already been at the beginning, when I think Mia gets possessed and she looks at Riley in her possessed state and she says that they like you. And it's like, oh, okay, right, that's a sign that you do not let him go anywhere near the hand. And of course,
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, you're right.
That's really sinister. That it's like his innocence is kind of more palpable to this spirit world, and he's more susceptible to it, which accounts for the horrifying things that he goes through. I remember seeing that in the cinema, thinking, oh my god, that's actually a lot stronger and a lot harsher than what I expected going in. I wasn't expecting that.
It may be the A24 connection, but it did certainly remind me of Hereditary, wherein halfway through there's some horrible head-related trauma, and the film never goes back after that. It's a completely different film. So it flips 180 in the beginning. We've got this group of friends that are trying to just dabble with this ridiculous hand and play with the supernatural, and they don't quite know. And then bang, you've suddenly got head trauma, wherein it becomes Mia is then trying to help Riley by going through the other side and using whatever influence she thinks that she might have to then help him come back. But yeah, so the film switching halfway through, being literally a film of two halves, that's, I think, what reminded me structurally of Hereditary.
Is there anything else you guys want to say before we head to the scores?
I did ask the Philippous.
Is there something you wanted to bring up about the time you interviewed the directors?
Funnily enough,
I
interviewed the directors, actually. I don't know if I brought that up.
Did you?
But yeah, I did, actually. And I did ask
Did they say anything interesting?
Well, they might have done. That's for everyone else to decide. But it's like, I did ask them. I said that there's a fabulous culture of horror filmmaking in Australia, from things like Wake in Fright to The Babadook more recently. And I asked them...
Relic as well was Australian.
Relic, yeah. And because they come out of YouTube comedy, they were incredibly sharp and they're only young guys. They're only in their 20s. They've got great energy and they don't take themselves seriously at all, which belies the intensity of the film. But I said to them, what is it about the Aussies that means you can make such great horror films? And Michael said, well, we're all disturbed. A lot of us are just criminals, or our ancestors are, and that's just kind of emblematic of their humour. It's just self-deprecating guys.
I mean, surely it's easy for Australians to make horror movies, because have you seen some of the creepy crawlies they've got?
Yes,
they're horror movies in and of themselves.
Yeah.
Hi, Bo, by the way, if you're listening.
But also they made Bluey. Ta-da!
Bluey. I'm going to see Bluey live on the weekend.
Wolf Creek.
I saw Bluey live at the South Bank. It's glorious.
Was it good?
It was.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Wolf Creek is amazing. At Lake Mungo, we talked about Lake Mungo on Frame to Frame, which is seriously overlooked and brilliant.
Heartbreak High.
Yeah.
Should we head to the scores?
Yes.
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have included fellow Stripped Media family members Martin and Sam from Song by Song, and Kobe from Flixwatcher, and Dave from The Wire Stripped. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
Welcome to the Flixwatcher scores. They are always out of 5. You can have decimal places if you wish, and we'll start with you, please, Sean, with your recommendability.
I would give this 4.5, I think. Yeah, because why go all the way to the limit, right? Then there's nothing else to aspire towards. So 4.5. Yeah.
That's defeatist.
That's my middle name.
Andy?
I'd go with 3.5. I think that it is quite gory in places, especially in the opening scene where, a character stabs themselves in the head. So I think it depends on your stomach.
I think quite quickly...
Yeah.
Is that the worst part of the film, though? But it's like a statement of intent, isn't it? So it gets worse than that.
The worst part is surely the guy smashing his head
Riley.
into
that's horrible.
into a dresser like that.
I think the bit I turned away from was when Mia stabbed her dad in the neck.
Yes.
No.
And also the brief shot of Riley in what appears to be hell in a very Event Horizon-esque
I
sequence,
thought
which
that
is
as well.
hideous. Oh, that's just really creepy. I feel so bad for him.
Yeah, I didn't turn away from that. I was just freaked out by it, but I didn't turn away from that. Because I've never seen anything like that before. That's just like, I don't
Get yourself
get this.
watching Event Horizon.
I've seen Event Horizon, but a while ago.
Yeah.
Helen?
I mean, the jump scare for me was the Crazy Frog ringtone. Like, whoa, that was...
Blast from the past.
That unsettled me a fair bit. I'm going to give it 4.7 because I think it just kind of ticks all of the boxes for a really, really, really entertaining horror film. And it kind of sets out from the beginning that it's basically... strap yourself in because we're just going to go for it. And I just find this kind of possession thing really fascinating, and like, where's the hand coming from? Like, and you can let it in, but there's rules as well, and they play by the rules. And and I even really love the ending as well. Like, I'm kind of up for a little bit more of it. I think the prequel's already been done, but I would...
Oh, is it a prequel, is it?
I think so, but I would kind of watch a little bit more of this and see what more crazy shit happens, so
4.8, I'm going to be the highest in this. I recommend, I think it was in my top 5 recommendations of the films from last year. Check me out at Cobestar on all the social medias, apart from TikTok because some knobhead. Anyway, that's for another day. Yeah, so this is a top 10 film for me from last year. I recommend it to people, but I have always said, guys, it's gory, and it's a 15. Sometimes I don't know whether if there was a nipple in there, it would have been an 18, wouldn't it? I guess there's not that much swearing.
Yeah, or some swearing. One use of the F word, then bang, 18.
when I saw it, the certificate didn't come up, so I didn't actually know what it was rated. And when that table scene came up, I was like, this must be an 18, surely. And it was only in hindsight, I was, oh, wow, they got away with making that a 15? I was quite surprised, to say the least.
That's the thing where when there's some properly cartoony violence, improbable injuries, that can mean it's a 15 because you're like, yeah, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's mitigated.
But smashing your head against the table and then against like a, I guess, was it mantelpiece type cupboard? That's something that can like...
Pulling your eye out. That was...
It was good. Yeah.
So yeah.
Sickos.
Repeat viewing score, Sean.
This is a good one. I think it wraps up everything it needs to say within one film, so I'd give it maybe a 4 on that.
Until Talk to Me.
Ah, nice.
No, that's the name of the film.
When you say one film, you mean one viewing?
Yeah, one viewing. I think maybe one can get the measure of it on the first viewing, but there are enough nuances in it to raise it up to a 4. I think not up to a 5 for me.
Andy?
I'll go with a 4.5. I think that it's absolutely got rewatchability because there's I think there's enough in there. There's fun from the gore, there's fun from the jokes, there's fun from the tropes that are then being subverted somewhat. So yeah, I'd go with a solid 4.5.
Helen?
Yeah, helped along by it being just over 90 minutes. I saw this November last year. We're March now. And I was quite happy to sit down and watch this again. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3.8. I don't think I'm going to watch it again that much. I've seen it twice now in the space of 8-ish months. And when you guys suggested it, I was like, yeah, there'll be lots of things I didn't take from the early parts of the film, which I now have context behind and want to see how that kind of plays out. So some of the things that Joss and Hayley were talking about kind of don't make much sense until you rewatch it. By the way, those two guys were great in this film, Zoe Tarakis and Chris Alosio. Zoe in particular, I think they had some funny lines. Like, hey, you babysitting? Oh, fuck me, who's this? Was that the F-bomb? Was that the F-bomb in the film? But those guys I thought were a great pairing in this as well as kind of the outsiders that are ostensibly the cool kids that your parents also tell you to stay away from because they can get into trouble, and they 100% do get into trouble.
Yeah, I think it gets a sense of a teenage social hierarchy, that pressure that we've all felt. Yeah, like there's always the couple of kids that do the sort of transgressive stuff that your parents tell you not to get involved with. Like, don't go near those guys. Yeah, I think the film observes that really, really effectively, I think.
Small screen score, Sean.
Oh, now I would say this is best seen on the big screen. Really, I was lucky enough to do that. So,
is that before you interviewed the directors?
Was actually.
Yeah.
Did you interview them?
The directors. Yeah, they were great. Don't know if I brought that up. I'd say, well, the small screen score would then have to be lower, wouldn't it? So if I'm advocating it for the big screen, so I would say 2.5. I would say, yeah.
Andy,
I'd go with a 3. I think that whilst it's better seen on a big screen, I don't think you lose too much by watching it on, your Apple Watch.
Helen, I'm ignoring that.
Yeah, this definitely was one that I should have taken the bus to the Odeon for. I don't know if it was on at the Odeon, but yeah, I'm a little bit sad that I didn't get to see it. But then I think it just came to Netflix like super, super quick, and I was like, oh, I don't need to wait that long. I mean, I had a great time watching it at home and squealing and like going, but I know that it would have been more fun with other people screaming. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 4.
I'm going to 3.4. I had a lot of fun in the cinema. The cinema wasn't packed, and I wished that I'd seen it at Sundance London, where it would have been a packed screening, like late at night, and to see people's reactions. And I remember watching Invisible Man, even though that wasn't that gory, but there's a few key scenes in that which made people like jump. And that was hilarious and great to see that with other people. And I think it would have been hilarious to sit next to Amon Warman and other such scaredy cats.
Bless him.
He screamed enough for the entire theatre, and I was like, my God, man, he terrified me more than the film did. It was such a visceral reaction. Horror is so communal. I think horror is the most communal genre.
If it's done well. Same, yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. A good old musical where you're singing along to Mamma Mia, that's pretty communal.
For all the wrong reasons.
Engagement score, Sean.
Yeah, I think this is really engaging. I think the characters, the scares, the atmosphere are all, the direction, the writing is all top notch. I'd give this 4.5. Yeah.
Andy?
I'm going to echo the 4.5. I think that it's great, and I'm very happy to go and watch it again. And if it was on, I wouldn't turn it off. And yeah, absolutely.
Helen?
Yeah, 4.5 as well. I think one of the other things that it doesn't do is trying to over-explain how things happen or kind of create the right circumstances, which sometimes films get a bit kind of caught up with trying to make sense of it. And it's like, no, we get it. Hold the hand, let spirit in. Bad things happen. It's like, fine, we don't need a backstory. You know, it's all good. So yeah, 4.5.
Yeah, they don't bother explaining like, oh yeah, who found out those rules? Where did the 90 seconds come from? Who was the first person to say, talk to me? Like, yeah, whatever. It is a thing.
Where did the hand come from? There's a slightest suggestion of that, but then they drop that, and it's like, you don't need it. You don't need that backstory.
I wonder if, am I going to go higher? I think I'm going to go higher because I think from the first shot of the film, you're in, through to the last shot. Maybe I'm basing this too much on the first viewing, but I can't fault the pulse of nature of it and the desire to want you to, keep going on through it. So, yeah, I'm going to go 5 for engagement score. And that gives us an overall score of 4.13750. Decent.
Very nice. Yeah.
Small screen score later down because we want to watch it in the cinema, basically. That's what's happened. Should we head to Twitter? Okay, everyone who's listening, please do find us on Twitter. We are at FlixWatcherPod, and find us because we talk about films just generally, but also because we do put a shout out asking for your opinions before we go into recording. So do look out for a tweet saying something similar to, we're reviewing Talk to Me with Sean and Andy from Frame to Frame podcast. Have you seen it? Tell us your thoughts and your score out of 5 stars for an on-air shout out on Flixwatcher. We had a few responses for this. Sean, this is your film. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, Ashley at the Nerdy Blogger says, great film, simple, effective, and truly shocking at points. And I would agree with all of that.
Andy?
And we should shout out, Ashley is, of course, a part of the We Made This network. She's got her own few podcasts across our network. So shout out to Ashley there. So I've got John Loftus, who is at LoftySNDS, which he says, it's riveting from the outset. It takes a grip of you just like the hand and doesn't let it go. 4 stars.
Helen?
So past guests on our podcast, the podcast Nobody Asked For, says 4 out of 5, very effective horror movie, but didn't live up to the hype train that was built around it for me.
I mean, 4 out of 5 stars suggests that that's perhaps not the case. I don't know. Guys, come on here and argue a case again. And Sean, last one.
So we have one from Anthony F, who gives the film 5 out of 5, saying it's a masterpiece of modern horror. The acting and the simple but oh so effective effects make it a gem.
Very nice.
Guys, thank you so much for giving your scores. It's been amazing to hear them. And thanks, Andy and Sean, for bringing the film to us again and coming on to the podcast again, I should say. I was a big fan of this film. At 4.13, I think it makes sense. It just makes sense. Can you tell us where we can find you guys online, your podcasts, and say goodbye to the listeners?
So you can find us on the We Made This network at Frame to Frame, where, as Andy said earlier, we bolt 2 films together on an unlikely theme. The more diverse and disparate films, the better. And yeah, you can check us out on there. So Andy, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Pretty comprehensive. Not much more for me to add other than to say thank you to our illustrious hosts. Thank you, Helen and Kobe, for getting us back on. And yeah, it's been great to come back on and talk to me. Talk to me, to you guys.
Well, don't be a stranger, guys. Come back again soon. Catch you later.
Thanks for coming on. Bye.
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 Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty tunes and Rockwood Audio's editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.